I mean, China is showing you what they can do for free with state money. It's not tax dollars in China paying for their AI investment. They went ahead and just did it because that's all the US has to do too. But because we're so full of shit about this idea that taxes fund spending, we can't get past that. So Donald Trump is playing on every idiot's dream.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up.
Colin, let's play some of these clips before we show you the list of the percentages he's putting on the various countries.
A big price from 1789 to 1913. We were a tariff-backed nation, and the United States was proportionately the wealthiest it has ever been. So wealthy, in fact, that in the 1880s, they established a commission to decide what they were going to do with the vast sums of money they were collecting. We were collecting so much money so fast, we didn't know what to do with it. Isn't that a nice problem to have? What do you think, Marco? Good problem? Marco would love that problem. But we don't have that problem anymore, but we're not going to have it very much longer, I will tell you. But they collected so much money, they actually formed a commission to determine what they were going to do with the money, who they were going to give it to, and how much. Then in 1913, for reasons unknown to mankind, they established the income tax so that citizens, rather than foreign countries, would start paying the money necessary to run our government.
So not that Steve or I were around in the 1700s to 1913, but a quick history lesson, the bare minimum. Yeah, we were a wealthy country for the robber barons, for, the railroad tycoons, the oil magnates. There was a whole lot of poverty in America, and there was really no middle class in the 1700s, 1800s. You had the Industrial Revolution where things got a little better, but I don't know what he's talking about, that we were once a wealthy country. Yes, very consolidated at the top. Am I missing that?
So let me clue you in on the code speak that the libertarians that are supporting Trump are saying, right? What happened in 1913? The Federal Reserve Act, okay? So this is their backdoor action to try and act like, oh no, the takeover of the country via central banking. Well, just so everybody's aware, England has a central bank, Japan has a central bank, Russia has a central bank, China has a central bank, Australia has a central bank. You get the picture, right? The point is that there's all these really fun books about blood libel and the Rothschild conspiracy that these people sit there and fap to at night, deep in the dark recesses of their mom's basement, and they talk about Rothschilds. This problem right here is the real issue, okay? What has happened, they did a income tax, and that allowed for them to collect taxes from everybody in a way that now that you have the money that's in your hand, the money that you get from your check, you can budget your life around. I'm not a fan of it. I mean, I think you should get rid of taxes altogether on everyone making less than, say, 500,000. And I know 500,000 sounds crazy, but seriously, we only need enough taxes out there, for at least on income, to keep the currency going, because taxes drive the need for currency. They don't actually fund spending. So this whole thing Trump's talking about is insane. Okay. If you want to get rid of taxes for the working class, get rid of taxes for the working class. But this idea that you're going to raise tariffs and prices on everything, every person that has to buy goods and services, no matter who they are, will pay that extra price. It will not be the foreign countries, because the foreign countries, they don't need US dollars. When foreign countries sell goods and services into the United States, what do they get? They get US dollars. Now, some of those foreign countries need US dollars to facilitate transactions for things they need to buy in the US, because you need US dollars to buy US goods. Okay. But they don't need that money. They don't do anything. They get a statement, a bank statement. That's it. So I don't know if this is making sense. I don't want to talk like in esoteric terms. I'm not trying to be all crafty here. The bottom line is that taxes literally do not finance or fund the federal government. So the idea that they're collecting US dollars from corporations and they're rolling in this money, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
Literally, the banking system, there's a loop There's a circuit inside the banking system that doesn't go out to the rest of the world. It's called a reserve. And those reserves go between banks to clear payments. When you write a check, Jordan Chariton, to your new reporter, you write that check, you're not paying her. You're sending a note to your bank, and your bank is saying, so I'm going to send this money that you've said on this check to her to put it in her account. That's all that happens here with the interbanking dollars, that reserve. The actual money on the outside, our money and stuff, my God, it's deleted once it's turned in as a tax. It doesn't do anything.
And I think it's important. We're going to get to the actual meat of who is getting the tariffs put on, including the auto industry, 25% across the board on all foreign automakers. But I think that's important because Trump is kind of sort of teasing that he just wants to get rid of the federal income tax. I don't think it's going to happen, but putting that aside, the fact that he's even teasing that kind of lends credibility to Steve and others' modern monetary theory. Because how could you get rid of the federal income tax if income taxes fund government services? That is the belief, and that is the narrative, that income taxes fund the government. Well, if you're going to get rid of the income tax, which he's proposing, income taxes fund, if you're going to get rid of that, how would we fund services? That's the point. They don't fund. The income taxes, among other taxes, don't fund on the federal level. They don't fund services.
Well, he's saying that these tariffs, these taxes, that's what they are going to fund the government now, because that's what they did back in the old days, right? Yeah. So it's hilarious. It really is. I mean, if you want to protect an industry, let's say you've got a junior industry starting up in the United States, like AI, right? I mean, China is showing you what they can do for free with state money. It's not tax dollars in China paying for their AI investment. They went ahead and just did it because that's all the US has to do too. But because we're so full of shit about this idea that taxes fund spending, we can't get past that. So Donald Trump is playing on every idiot's dream that we're going to get rid of tax. We're going to do this because taxes fund the government. We're going to make them over there pay for the taxes. And there's just enough people out there that don't understand, that will sit there and get all excited about this. And it's devastating. Actually, it's devastating because think about it. If you're poor and you've got $100 in your pocket and that's all you, or less, right? Now, all of a sudden you've got to pay additional money for everything that you get. Food source, you name it. And honest to God, there is just not enough production in the United States to offset the kinds of things that you would have to buy from imports. So that means people are going to have to pay that price, period.
Let's show you more of what Trump said and then get into the specifics of his tariff.
But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart? And that'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating. So we're going to have a minimum of cheating, and we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate.
All right, let's show a chart of each country and their tariffs. Again, unless I'm missing something, I didn't see anything on Canada or Mexico in this. So he's putting a 25% tariff on foreign automakers. We're going to get to the automakers part because that's basic. There is no such thing as foreign. There's no 100% American-made car. Even cars that are manufactured in America, they get parts from Mexico and Canada. So even car companies that have plants in America, a lot of parts of the cars are not manufactured in America. So essentially, if he's doing it to the letter of the law, he's putting a tariff on all car companies, period. China, 34%. European Union, 20%. Vietnam, 46%. Taiwan, 32%. Japan, 24%. And what this means is all the goods coming from those services. So obviously electronics, when we're talking about China, also a lot of farm products from a lot of these companies, food. Japan, 24%, India, 26%, South Korea, 25%, Brazil, 10%. Thailand, 36%. Switzerland, 31%. Indonesia, 32%. Malaysia, 24%. Cambodia, almost 50%. United Kingdom, reciprocal, he called it, because they charge us 10%. We're charging them 10%. South Africa, 30%. And I will believe it when I see it, Israel, 17%. Again, unless I'm missing something. Oh, there's a couple more here. I won't read them all, but you can see. It's funny, Steve, that he's been complaining so much about Mexico, China, considering he's the one in his first term that redid NAFTA with the USMCA. So he's shitting on us getting exploited by Mexico and Canada, but he's the one that renegotiated the trade deal. So essentially he's shitting on himself because he did NAFTA 2.0, which was essentially the same as NAFTA 1.0. They just changed a few words, moved a few periods. That there was really not a big difference between NAFTA 1 and NAFTA 2.0. But let's focus on specifics. The auto industry. The UAW president, Sean Fain, who I've interviewed before, we were obviously on the ground covering the historic UAW strikes in 2023. They got, at that time, a great contract compared to the shit and the rump roast they got for the last 2 decades. But 25% across the board, foreign automakers. Trump's argument has been great. I hope those foreign automakers in America raise their prices, because then Americans will just go and buy American-made cars. That sounds good in principle, but as far as I know, there's not many fully American-made cars. And I don't think if a Ford truck goes from 70, 80 grand today, I'm just making it up, maybe it's less than that, but let's say a Ford truck goes from 60, 70 today to 100,000 because of these tariffs. I mean, that's going to hurt the workers at those plants. There's going to be layoffs of the workers at those, foreign automakers, because they're going to sell less cars. And I don't know what American-only auto companies customers are then going to rush to, because, again, no car company is purely all parts made in America.
Well, just think about this for just a minute, right? The idea of quote unquote bringing back the jobs. This is the kind of stuff that sits with people well. They're like, oh, bring back the jobs, right? But a lot of the jobs that were sent away, if you will, were jobs people didn't want to do to begin with, okay? And if you think about giving pieces of paper to China, to whoever's doing the development work, and then we are consuming that, I mean, we're giving them pieces of paper for real goods and services, right? Now, as an empire, that has been our privilege. We're literally kicking that empire, which, I mean, I can see all kinds of good reasons to stop predating on the global south and abusing other countries and stuff like that. But this is a complete like bastardization of that concept of being anti-imperial. This is not anti-empire. This is just stupid. Okay. There are certain things that other countries just simply do better than us. There are things that makes no sense for us to try and do. And the fact is that our government has long known that the answer to this is to create good jobs, but they cut the government jobs. They're slashing the government jobs. Good, productive, white-collar jobs, good, productive, even working-class jobs that could be in the local community, as opposed to driving 3 hours to get to a job or driving an hour in traffic to get to a job. We're going to sit there and make it so that we're taking our real resources, the things in the ground, our ground, we're digging up our ground to send it off to other countries now, like instead of letting them do it for us. Like all the waste now, think about it. He started rolling back the regulations. They're starting to repeal all the stuff for the environment, all these things. Why is that? Because if you try to bring the production back home, you're not going to be able to be competitive if, oh my God, you've got to adhere to regulations, right? So this has all been part and parcel with bringing back the pollution, bringing back the waste, bringing back all that crap, and then simultaneously slashing anything that would keep us clean drinking water. They said, you can't say clean drinking water now. You can't say any of these things. They wiped out all these terms. This is the biggest fuck job you've ever seen. But at the same time, though, because people aren't really thinking about all this stuff, they're only thinking he's bringing back the jobs. Well, he's not going to bring back the job. It's going to be impossible to bring back all that work. Okay. But even if he did do that, the cost of doing that, and I'm not talking about cost in money, I'm talking about cost as in lives. I'm talking about cost as in the environment. I'm talking about cost as in destroying the country. It's just stupid. And, unfortunately,
Well,
I don't think that far.
the other thing is, this does nothing about the core issues and the real economy. Colin, show the chart. We've had a grand bank robbery in this country for 40 years. That's why I call it the United Corporations of America. There's the red line. This is the bank robbery. All our money going to the Trumps and the Howard Lutnicks and the, all of Trump's billionaires in his cabinet. He's not doing anything about the starvation federal minimum wage of $7.25. Not doing a goddamn thing. He's not doing anything about one of the biggest drivers of bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy, because he's against universal health care. He's not doing anything about the fact that we have employment tied to our health care, tied to employment, which is one of the biggest problems in our economy. He's not doing anything to cap CEO salary and close the gap. It used to be 50-1 CEOs to workers. Now it's 400 to 1. So to me, Steve, this is all kind of like Trump bluster to say, I'm bringing the jobs back. I'm for the American working man and woman. But in reality, they've been open. Yeah, there's going to be short-term pain. But I don't think it's going to be short-term pain.
No.
And lastly, the companies will wait this out. The companies will say, he's gone in 4 years, we think, because he's talking about, running again and fuck the Constitution. But they'll just wait this out because they know it'll all be reversed. Or Trump is known to moonwalk and reverse things if it becomes unpopular. He'll just walk it back. So I don't really think any companies the stock market's crashing, but I think the companies will just wait this out. I don't think this is not going to be like Ford and GM and Apple are going to be like, all right, we got to close down the factories in China, close down the factories in Mexico. We're opening up right in Detroit again. I don't think so.
Just remember this: every time Congress writes a bill, and again, I don't believe we have a democracy. So what I'm saying here is just the way it is if you had a democracy. Okay, but Congress to this day, if it writes a bill, all right, it can put in that bill must hire U.S. citizens, must hire blah blah blah, must do this, and then it could say we want to make EV cars affordable because we want to get away from these petroleum cars. So we're going to buy all these Musk cars. U.S. government could subsidize every single one of those cars if it wanted to, right? So this whole thing
like China's doing.
Oh, God, you're picking it up, right? You're seeing one country is doing for its citizens, the other one is fucking its citizens, and its citizens are so dumbed down because its country has screwed education up that they think it's a good thing. Okay, reality is, if the federal government says we want to build all new state-of-the-art bridges across America, we want to create high-speed rail in every freaking city, we want to connect the East Coast to the West Coast with renewable high-speed rail, okay, they could literally do that instantaneously, and there would be millions of jobs. But they aren't doing that. Why? Because the people that are going, yeah, tariffs, don't understand the way federal taxes are working. They don't understand the way federal spending works. So they're like, yeah, but in reality, they're screwing us once again, big time. The jobs they want to build the high-speed rail, the government can fund it, and they can write into the bill any contracting requirements necessary. Must hire X, must do Y, must pay this wage, must anything they want. They can write it into the law. Every bill does this, by the way. Okay, there's like an Act 91 or something, like I can't remember the exact act, but it's a federal law that provides money to the departments of transportation across the country that allows them to rehab and fix the bridges, fix the federal roads, the roads that are national roads, right? And literally, they can sit there and take that money, and they can only do the thing that they're told to do, and they will not get reimbursed if they don't use that kind of encumbrance to make that bill do what they said for it to do. Okay, it happens all the time. Why they won't do that is beyond me. And provide a goddamn federal job guarantee to make sure that immigrants are not treated like they're stealing your job or whatever. Provide a federal job guarantee so people can work in their communities. All this stuff is so much bullshit. Every last bit of it is bullshit. And like, honestly, the idea of taxing corporations, just so we're on the same page, corporations, once you issue a tax to a corporation, corporations are pass-throughs. They're always pass-throughs. You want to hit corporations, tax the shit out of the C-suite. Tax the C-suite, tax the individual CEOs, but they won't do that. So this isn't a matter of we can't do it.
Like Emperor Musk?
Yes, fucking A, right. So just think about this. Elon Musk gets over $9 billion in federal subsidies. Over $9 billion in subsidies.
Wake up, Steve. 38 billion he's gotten. Thank you.
Well, okay, let's go even higher. I'm sure it's even more than that, but let's just say it's 50 billion, right? The point is that every single dollar he's gotten is from a law passed the way that I was just talking about, written into a law. The dollars are keystroked in and sent to Musk. He found the magic money computers that pay him $50 million or $1 billion or whatever. And you want to talk about making America great again? Instead of having people going bankrupt for cancer, going bankrupt for, getting fired from some job where some asshole was like, yeah, we got to earn another quarter point for the quarterly profit margin. So we're going to lay off 10,000 people. Instead of doing that, we could ensure every single American had a good job. Every single person could. We can make sure everybody that wants to go to college could go to college without bankrupting them. Every single one of them. Every single one of them.